If instead of fighting a war with deadly weapons, the militaries from each country pick a plot of land in their country and have a contest to see who can create the most beautiful city from scratch, which country would win? Maybe Italy or Britain. The city doesn't have to be modern, and the good old Roman or medieval cities from there are great. But old Croatian cities are also very nice. Probably Dubai, just because of unlimited funds and slaves and no safety standards. This contest is basically what the UAE is. Singapore and China. In olden days they would have pissing contests. The two challengers would stand closer and closer to each other as they were urinating. The one who pissed on the other one first could be the furthest one. Fuck you, Baltimore. If you're dumb enough to buy a car this weekend, come on down to Big Bill Hells. Hasn't the UAE already been doing this? Creating even the land itself from scratch. Kazakhstan did it with Astana, now Nur-Sultan. Crazy architecture and very few people or really useful spaces. Just impressive buildings. Singapore, the one who uses their resources to build up a stronger military and take over the other country's city when they're done with it. Killing is literally nature's easy way out. Why do you think humans will take a harder path in a relativistically moral world? Italy, of course. Probably a European country. Depends on how score is checked. If the citizens vote, then North Korea would force all their citizens to vote for them and they would win. If other countries vote, then assuming no outside forces affect the votes, the UK would win. If Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland ran separately, then England specifically would win. Although the UAE could be a close second. Also, how do small countries with not enough room to build a new city work? Do they just not participate? Primitive technology from YouTube. It depends on what context and the rules are. Richer countries would be able to have way better cities because of all of their materials, and poor countries wouldn't really be able to compete. We could have a spending limit so more countries could compete. We could also have teams of less wealthy countries so they could pool resources. I feel that if you're replacing war, Theresa reasons certain nations generally win in battle. Money equals technology equals surviving equals killing. So, there really shouldn't be a spending limit. The bigger pool of resources you have, the better you are. In general, in your example, hiring the best architects, artists and engineers requires outbidding the rest. The Netherlands. Probably Singapore. Singapore. I feel like Holland or Denmark or somewhere from around Northern Europe. Those adorable houses. Edit, I'll leave it saying Holland so the replies make sense, but basically, I forgot the title mentioned countries specifically, and I just read the title and went off into my head about which areas of the world were beautiful. Sorry. If we're going with countries, then yeah, Netherlands. Yep. Scandinavian countries are beautiful. Finland. Italy. China. Just look at Shanghai, at night. I agree. You gotta give it to the centrally planned economy with tons of resources and a track record of building cities from scratch for decades. To hell with your context. I vouch for the Inca. Beauty is too subjective. The Chinese would build a metropolitan city to hold lots of people. The Americans would build a city with wide roads for cars. The French would focus on building an aesthetic city. The Germans an efficient city. The Russians would build a sprawling mess and fight anyone who denied that it was the most beautiful thing that ever existed, and so on. Who's gonna judge between them? Since beauty is subjective, even the Russians would have a point. It depends. If the Russians are making a fancy city that's supposed to be beautiful, then it will be a top contender. If they are just building a city for people and industry, then it probably will look like a brutalist mess. Nah, Russians are smarter than that. They're just gonna build a functional city and declare it beautiful based on their own made-up criteria. The Soviets know that all that matters is the definition, not the product. Venetian Republic. Japan. Probably, but Japan is pretty weird though. Probably Singapore. Germany. Would make sure every building expresses inclusiveness and is green and accessible for disabled people, etc. Practical usage, however, is garbage. Every shop and building must have an elevator with standards so high that they cannot be maintained, so they just put a out of order sign on it and don't give a fuck. As Germans are so open to religion, there will be massive churches, Protestants, Muslims, Catholics, Jews, in weird art styles which are pretty much gold-plated on the inside, state-financed, but always closed. The actually nice fountains have 20 iron signs on them with "Do not drink, do not bath, do not litter and do not throw coins" each. The city is called green because everything is electric. It is of course powered by coal, which is cheaper. It is only cheaper because of the subsidies, but who cares? It is in the rich south, but people want a nice harbor, so they make a half-assed harbor which symbolizes welcoming and being open. Despite being on an artificial lake, they repair an old sailing ship for 135 million, but you will not be allowed to board it for safety reasons. The market square is paved to form a huge QR code that can never be scanned and would only lead to a 90s style website which only consists of a welcome and a guest book. Define beautiful in a measurable metric. Singapore, LKY would reincarnate and win with Singarich. Construction and other infrastructure-related companies, the government contracts to build these cities would allow the companies to hire more people on. Not to mention there would be a greater emphasis on getting into specific trades. This is such a weird question, lol. Why not just what country can build the prettiest city from scratch? I don't get the whole military backstory. Wouldn't get as much attention. USABC, we're the best goddamn country in the world. Not from America, but I agree, and don't forget Netherlands second. USA takes the top 5. USA. USA. Netherlands 6th.